So we're going to go over detecting collisions. So currently our game will look like this, where we have a Mario and then some enemies that will appear. Your Mario might not be animated yet, that's okay. What we'll want to do is detect if Mario collided with one of the enemies, and then we'll be able to say kill the enemy. So the first thing that we'll want to do is make sure that we have this utilities class. So we go to our package and we create a utils class. And inside of that, we're going to create something called a world contact listener. And what the world contact listener does is that it listens for contact. So it's going to let us know when two things collided. So we're going to implement contact listener. And what this is going to give us is an error message and say, hey, you haven't implemented a bunch of methods that you need. So you go ahead and import those, and you're going to get begin contact, end contact, pre-solve, and post-solve. Now, what we're mostly concerned with is when the contact began or when the contact ended. Post-solve and pre-solve you can read about in the write-up, but they are not as important for us right now. So within that, what we're going to want to make sure is that in your user data, you have set for player and for enemy, for both. You set your user data to this, which is this class. So what is that going to let us do? Well, here we can figure out which two fixtures collided with each other. So fixtures are the ones that are able to come in contact with other things. So we can say fixture, object A, because we're not sure what exactly collided with what. Then we can go with contact dot get fixture A, and then fixture object B equals contact dot get fixture B. So two things collided with each other. The first one would be A, the second one would be B, and we'll try to figure out what to do with those. So how do we know whether one of these is a player or is it an enemy or is something else? Maybe something different collided with, maybe a pipe, or we collided with a coin or whatnot. So we're going to say if object A dot get user data. User data is going to give us what we said was this. So it's going to give us an object. So he's going to give us this object. So we're going to say if the fixture that collided with something contains some data, and that data is an instance of player, then that means that that fixture contains an object of type player. And because the only thing that can contain an object of type player is these player objects, then we know that what collided or what object A is when it collided with something else was player. And we can say if object A is player, if object player is A and object B dot get user data is an instance of enemy. So if object A is player and object B is enemy, then what we want to do is we want to for now just print that there was a collision. So we're going to say collision for log, and then say player collided with enemy. And let's see if we can get that to show up in our printout. So we're going to go here, and then we are going to jump collide, and it's colliding, but nothing is happening. So why we don't have that is because if we go to level 1, we have not set the worlds to listen to collisions. So we have to say world dot set your listener to this new world contact listener that I'm creating. And now that I set the collision listener to that, we should see a printout down here. We jump, and we're getting some collisions with the enemy, collisions with the enemy. Perfect. So then we go over to our contact listener, and what we want to do is we want to let the enemy know that the player has collided with it, and he will go ahead and perhaps die. So in this case, we know that object B is the enemy, and what we're going to say is enemy, or a variable type enemy, which is Goomba. So this variable is called Goomba. It is of type enemy, and we're going to say object B dot get user data. Now remember that get user data is an object of type enemy, but the compiler doesn't know that, so we have to make sure that we cast it to that. So we say, okay, this is an object, which is a generic object, but that object is of type enemy, and now save it in a variable called enemy. And then in the enemy class, we'll want to create a public void death method. And what we're going to want to do there, for now at least, is go with app.log Goomba splat. So whenever a player comes in contact with an enemy, what we'll want to do is we'll want to say enemy.death. So we're going to want to call that death method from enemy. We'll go ahead and run this, and we have our Mario. It's going to come in contact with a Goomba, and then the Goomba died. So we can see here it's a splat. So then, now that we have been able to kill that Goomba, there's a couple of things that we can do. If we look over our Mario enemies atlas, we'll notice that there are 3 different animations for Goomba. There's a standing one, then there's another that's the opposite walking one, and then there's a splat one. So what we did before is that when we created our enemy, we said to go to that region in the atlas and get whatever was at 0, 0. So what that means is that the region, this region is called the Goomba region, and then at 0, 0 we have this guy right here. But if we go 16 pixels to the right, then we're going to end up with this guy, and if we go another 16 pixels to the right, then we're going to end up with this guy. So what we'll want to do is that we will want to set the texture of the enemy whenever it's dead to something completely new. So then we'll create a private texture region dead method, and we are going to load that up in the constructor, and we're going to say new texture region screen.getAtlas find region, find the Goomba region, and within that region, don't start at 0, 0, instead start at 32, 0, and then the graphic that you're going to get is height of 16 and width of 16. So we're starting at 32 because 0, 0 again is this one, 0, 16 is this one, 0, 32 is this one. Then we'll go back to our enemy, and we're going to say when death happens, set region to the dead region. And we'll go over here. We'll and there we go. So now that we collided with it, we set the region to something new, and we have told the Goomba that he is now dead.